Well, here we are for another episode of Just Saying. We normally would be outside in our gym car. I'm here today with Peppermint, who is a Broadway actress, activist, famous from RuPaul's drag show. And what's interesting is we're on the set of our student production of Shakespeare in Love. And tonight is the closing night. So they've been nice enough to let us use the set. A lot of our students, they're young people, many of them struggling with identity questions of all sorts. And talk a little bit about how this intersectionality that you've sort of had to navigate and now seem to have found a way, a comfort zone, if you will. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, that was something that I struggled with a lot. Being an actor and an artist, one would assume, and I think the arts in general has gotten a reputation, very understandably, for being very opening and welcoming to all types of people, especially queer people. But it was interesting enough, living in New York City and auditioning for Broadway shows, I wasn't able to find roles that were written for anyone like me. And the closest I could find were still nothing like me. and so that was kind of a signifier right there that something wasn't fitting. I don't know if the industry that I was trying to get into didn't fit, or something inside wasn't really fitting with the rest of the industry, but it was clear that something needed to change. And so when I found drag, I was also very comfortable and very happy because I found an art form that I was in complete control of, and that I could, write what I wanted to do, and I was in control of how I looked, what I said, what I performed, where I performed, when I performed, maybe how much money I made. and so I had a control over a lot of those things. It seemed clear to me at the beginning that if I wanted to be in mainstream film and television or theater, that I was going to have to kind of suppress who I really am. And so it was, that was troubling, but it really gave me the opportunity to go back into the shop and work on myself and really get to know myself and really find a way to really fuse that and connect that to whatever the art was that I was going to be presenting.
And it triggered in my mind what I consider the devaluation of black women in particular, and been thinking about the R. Kelly situation.
Very much.
And I, like everybody else, was riveted to the documentary and stunned by how little action there was from law enforcement or whomever. And so if the violence against black women is tolerated in the society.
And it is.
Right. And so then, by extension, violence against trans women of color, black women in particular, has to be
ignored.
Extraordinarily difficult to lift up. So how do you do that?
It's one iota above ignored.
Right.
It's somewhat reported on, and oftentimes when it's reported, depending on where you are, who's doing the reporting, it's not even reported with any sense of dignity or respect. It's usually reported with a sense of defiance, not respecting the gender identity or the pronouns of the person that had been murdered.
Right.
Not respecting the chosen name that they've been using for years of the person that's been murdered. And so that's with a sense of defiance, almost a sense of disapproval. And so that is another thing that trans women of color and trans folk of color really deal with, and it just drives home how important it is for me to kind of keep us in the conversation and not allowing the conversation or discussions about trans women of color be separated from the Black Lives Matter movement or from what's going on with R. Kelly, like trying to keep all these things in the conversation so that people who care about one of these issues realize that there is, again, this intersectionality, and that, if Black Lives Matter and I'm a black trans woman and I'm in danger of being murdered, then my life matters.
So how has drag evolved? Where is it going? And we have some student performers tonight.
I know, and I cannot wait to see them.
So what advice do you give to them? So where's drag going? How's it evolved? And then, what would you tell our students for tonight?
Well, I think drag is finally to a place where we're starting to see that it's not just one definition. I mean, classically, the definition is a man dressed in women's clothing for entertainment. And while it can be that, it can also be women and people who identify as neither or both, who are putting on a heightened sense of gendered performance. And it better be fierce.
So yeah, because y'all are critical now. You don't play.
No.
Just the concept of gendered performance. Talk about that a little bit. People might not quite understand what you're
Yeah, well, I mean, I think what we all speak languages,
Right.
and we all know about spoken language, and we all know about body language. But one thing that people don't realize is the first language that we use, that we learn oftentimes very early on, is the language of gender, and what men are supposed to do versus what women are supposed to do, and whether it's what color, pink and blue, trucks versus dolls. That's a language, and it's also performative. And so how someone walks or talks can also be viewed as feminine or masculine. And so we pull all those things that we all use every day in our lives. It's on us, it's in us, it's around us, it's in the food we eat. I mean, it sounds like some kind of poison.
Right.
To some
No.
people it is,
Right.
toxic masculinity.
Right.
But we take this gendered language, and then people who do drag use it and kind of amp it up
Right.
and give it back to the audience. And so then they become like tropes or stereotypes that we play on. And they work really well, and that's why everyone loves drag, is because we are these sort of gender renegades that are commenting on, or can comment on, everything from masculinity to femininity to politics and everything in between.
That's fascinating. It really is. There's a million questions I'd like to ask there, but I know you have to get ready for tonight, and so we're going to end with so typically in this little show, if we call it that, the students do a rapid fire questions to me.
Okay.
What do I like? This hamburger or that hamburger. So I'm going to do a rapid fire with you.
Oh my gosh, I'm ready.
Okay.
Okay, go.
Was the tie on the most recent edition of All Stars
How dare you?
BS?
Was it BS?
Yeah.
No,
Okay. Will you be a contestant on the next version of All Stars?
can't say.
Heather or Booger?
Me? Boogery Heathers.
You cheated. Do you keep in touch with Sarge?
Actually, lightly, yes. Sarge is constantly working, but yes.
Like this. Better tagline, purse first or hey lay low? Hey lay loo.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
What kind of phonetic spelling is this? You just said hallelujah. Look at that. That doesn't say hallelujah.
Okay.
Does it?
Let's say hallelujah, baby.
Yeah,
Hallelujah.
Okay.
I'd say purse first, because I'm like really close with Bob's Drag Queen.
Okay. If you had to do Snatch Game over again, what celebrity would you impersonate?
Probably Wendy Williams.
The current
The
Wendy
current,
Williams?
no, yeah, maybe the current Wendy Williams, because she don't have to say much.
Yeah, right? Last question. You're known as a lip sync assassin. What are your go-to songs?
Girl from the Gutter by Kina.
That's it? Mm-hmm. And that kills every time.
That kills them every time. Slays them.
Peppermint, thank you so much.
Thank you so
Appreciate
much.
it. Welcome to UNCG.
Thank you.